Hi! At Tobias Garden, we have a really nice planting of beets that are just coming on, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about beets today because we have some beets going in our CSA box this week. So we grow 3 different kinds of beets here. The first kind is just a standard red beet. This is a early tall top wonder. Sometimes we grow Detroit's dark red, but they're very similar. The next one is a golden beet, and the one that's going in the box this week is a Chioggia beet. Chioggia is an Italian heirloom, and it is sometimes called a guards mark beet or a candy cane beet, and I'll show you why. Because when you take the beet and you cut it this way, it has a beautiful kind of like bullseye or candy cane stripe on the inside. And so these are really pretty beets to slice very thin on a mandolin and make a salad with, or to shred and put into salads. When you cook them, those colors do blend together, so they're not the vibrant stripe that you see when you cut them. So to cook beets, they're very good roasted. It helps to bring out the flavor, and they're really good roasted with fennel. The easiest way to cook beets is to steam them, and so that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. So the greens of the beet are edible, and you can save those for use later, but if we're going to cook the roots, we're just going to remove the tops, and I'm going to do that by cutting the tops off very close to the root, and I'm just going to leave these bottom roots on and everything. So I'm just going to cut these off. How am I doing, Hosanna?
Go.
She is my kitchen helper. So we're gonna cut these off, and I'm gonna do a couple of each. And now with these dark red ones, just know that if you chop them on a cutting board or something, they will stain. So a couple ways to steam these. You can use a pot that's made just for steaming that has a basket that goes inside of it. This one is a little large for what I'm doing, so I'm just gonna take my regular saucepans, and I have this little steaming insert, and I'm just going to put those in here, and I'm going to put a little bit of water in this pot and bring that to a boil, and I'm going to cook these until they are fork tender. Okay, so our beets have been cooked, and I just want to show you that once your beets are cooked, see, I left the skin on and everything, and so then you can just slide the skin right off once they're cooked. And then they're easier to peel than if you try to do it beforehand. So here's the Chioggia beet that I had cut into. You can see that the colors have kind of blended together there. And so I'm going to make the salad that I'm putting as the recipe of the week in our newsletter. And so I'm just gonna slice up these beets. I'm gonna cut up some tomatoes and throw a few herbs in there. Hosanna is chopping our basil, and I have these fun herb scissors that make it easier for her to help. But for those of you who don't, let me rinse this beet off my hands. If you get basil in the box, I just start by pulling off the leaves, and I just take this whole kind of top piece here. Let me move these beets out of the way. And you can just roll all of those together and then thinly slice them this way if you don't have some fun little scissors. But the scissors are surely nice because it makes it possible to have little helpers in the kitchen. So we have some fresh herbs here. We have our beets that are now cooked, and I'm just going to thinly slice these beets. And so you can kind of see that bullseye in there still. So I steamed these for about a half an hour, just until they were fork tender all the way through. Let's throw a golden one in there to get some color. Okay, so I have all my ingredients for the recipe prep, so I'm just gonna start assembling the salad. So we'll just put some beets down here. Now the recipe called for 2 beets, but I'm gonna use 4 because These are not very big beets. And I'm opting not to use the red ones because they bleed onto everything else. So I'm gonna leave those out. So my heirloom tomatoes, some of them were quite large, so I ended up quartering them, the large ones. But I tried to find a variety of colors to put on our plate to make it look really pretty. A couple more beets here. So I've got some green zebras to throw some color in there. This is such a fun salad, and some indigo rose. Right. And then the recipe also calls for some cherry tomatoes, which are also going in the box. So, oh, my little helper was gonna put the cherry tomatoes on, so I'll let her do that. I'll put them on. And so the dressing says to put the herbs in it, and I opted just to kind of sprinkle the basil on rather than mixing it in the dressing. Okay, so set them on here like this, spread them out. Thank you, Hosanna. Let me get the rest of those because there's some tiny ones. All right. And then the pearl barley, I just used some salted water, and I used a ratio of 2 to 1, just like I would rice, and let it cook until all the moisture was gone out of that. So go ahead and add that there. And now for the dressing, it calls for 2 tablespoons of olive oil and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, which ended up being about the juice of 1 organic lemon. And I tasted that, and I'm a little sensitive to sour, so I went ahead and mixed some with balsamic vinegar instead because it tends to be a little more sweet. And that's what I'm going to go ahead and drizzle over mine. Now, you could surely plate this up individually. And there is our summer beet and tomato salad. Now in the recipe it says to roast the beets, and I opted not to do that because it's so hot outside, but it's still beautiful and totally delicious.